All right. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Anaki. Actually, let me see. Can you hear me? Looks like everything's good. We got Princess Fussy Butt right out the gate. Hey, hey. Mm. So, when we left off in MHA, hey, what up, Tiger Blaster? Got my people back. Let's see. All right, so left off with All Might pulling up in that Iron Mike suit. Like those of you who have been here for a long time knew was going to happen. So, hey, my boy Tyler is here, half asleep, all the way here. That's all that matters. Let me go ahead and drop the link in the Discord. I should really, at some point, take the time to learn how to create a bot to do this. But until I actually do that, this is how we do it manually. Put a little extra love in there. Ain't that right, Princess Fussy Butt? Ain't that right, Princess Fussy Butt? All right, so this is the new world you live in, where I love my daughter on stream all the time. All right, so let me just go ahead and paste. And hit that. Yeah, see, this is wild. So you gotta develop new skills when you have a kid. You gotta type in at everyone while pasting the link in the Discord. We level up every day. I can't believe you've done this. And MK the baby key on stream. She always gonna make her little appearance because she love her dad. She love getting a little extra time. She just want to be rock right now. She's staring off into the book space. I think she just likes the constantly adjusted angle. So pretty little girl. All right, so Mr. Andrews here. All right, let me go. All right, who's Princess Fussy Butt? Yeah. All right. Let me get the chapter pulled up. So let's see. While my producer tries to adjust the camera. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Let me pull that chapter up. Shouldn't expect East to be here, at least not early, if at all. We'll see. East is a busy man. Actually, let me make sure everything on the stream is active how it's supposed to be. Let's see, Trippy Manga, Thomas pulling up. Thank you. Appreciate all my regulars for showing up as you come through. Know it's been a minute. Hey, once you start Princess Fussy Butt, you don't need to get all fussy. I don't even have a passy for you. I don't know what I was thinking. Setting myself up on hard mode if you decide to get wilder. But that's okay. You're not right over here. So I'm sure this wasn't too much. All right. Yeah. Just so y'all know, your boy got a procedure tomorrow. They're putting me to sleep. Doing my cancer screening. So that's going to be interesting. I'll let y'all know about how that experience goes next week when I have information. It also means I can't eat today. So that's going to be interesting. Wait, what? Okay. Used to sleeping. Yep. Okay. Hello. My eyes are closed, but I'm listening now. How are things? All right, everybody's doing pretty good lately, Tyler. All right. Let's see. Since Princess Fussy Butt looks like she's kind of spacing out, I'm gonna go hop in this chapter so I can get through the reading while she's being compliant and be able to catch if I miss any pages. Himura blood runs thick. Oh snap. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to talk about it because years ago, I wondered if Gatan was possibly a lost Himura after the implication from the Endeavor backstory that they kind of fell from grace. So let's see. Long ago, the Himura started as village leaders, and even after the agricultural revolution, they maintained their wealth and pride by creating branch families. Let's see, gets in Quirk, Ice Ply, Paranormal Liberation Front Lieutenant. So we finally got a name for it. ice supply. But the advent of the exceptional only hastened their downfall. They didn't want to dilute their blood, you see. And Mr. Compress, who being a legacy man himself, a snobbish bloodline prejudiced against heteromorphs. Can you imagine what Spinner would say if he heard about such a combo? Yeah. This resulted in countless marriages between branch families, between distant relatives. Hence your remark about thick blood. Look, by insulating themselves like that, the Himera clan was doomed to shrink and wane. When the head family started selling off children into marriage, it essentially marked the end of their line. The few remaining families and their members scattered, including myself. Another church of MHA, another church of MHA. Yeah, we out here. All right. So we ain't even. I was just talking about on previous page. What do I need to say? What do I need to say? They fell from grace. They fell from grace. All we got is more explanation on the grace. Gaten is officially a Himura clan member. It was cousin versus cousin back in NBA. It's always family drama when Dobby's involved. Should have told you right there. The few remaining families and their members scattered, which is when Redestro came upon me and brought me into the fold. With each generation, meta abilities grow more complex, deeper and richer, like layered sediment in a body, with some powers lying dormant unbeknownst to the user. Yet people's hearts never manage to evolve. I wonder what changes we'll witness come tomorrow. Okay, your turn. The compressor's just kind of looking at him like, dog, what? Okay, your turn. Hear anything good from the cops or heroes? Whatever you've got, entertain me. We're just killing time until the battles end. About 800 meters from the Gunga Villa mountain ruins. Let's see, Endeavor is still waddling away. Looks like he's on the ground, though. Stop flying. An explosion, you say. Nice breathing heavy. Got that emphasis on that stump. It's not just the evacuation block that's in danger, but also Pixie bot groups that's fighting back against Toga's doubles. Damn it, fighting all for one did a number on my legs. Damn it, I'm not sure how much longer I can keep luring him away. Or luring Toya away. I should clarify that he is actually speaking his name. Dad. All right, Toya. Dad, watch me. All right, watch. Look what I figured out how to do. Oh, the cute little flashback to baby Toya, and then the super big fist being thrown, made of flame. So basically a vanishing fist on a higher degree. So this is kind of crazy because it so perfectly encapsulates the idea of Endeavor going beyond, reaching these new high levels, but with that same manic drive. Is like Toya is currently not only personification of all the rage that his children felt towards Endeavor, but he's also the manifestation of just straight up Endeavor's rage towards All Might, towards everything. And we're kind of seeing, with that firepower, what he meant when he said that, Toya would have been able to like possibly surpass All Might. Obviously, if his body not being able to handle it creates a different argument, but if you think about him being able to find a way to make his body able to handle it, for example, let's say we find out that, as Giten was hinting at when he said people have abilities, if Dabi was able to, especially with him having raised composition, a Himura body, lower the temperature of his body to an extent that he was not able to actually be burned because he was constantly creating a layer of cool between himself and the flames or something like that, that requires a lot of finesse and skill, then you really could argue or see the argument being made as a higher firepower of like icy hot, but not quite with the duality of the power. So we'll see. I'll keep reading. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any pages. Y'all in the chat gonna tell me if I missed any. Good morning, Joseph Shola. I'm just glad to get 10 again. Yeah, this confirms the theory. Hey Nathan, yep, Tanisha's here. Julian Burns, Jalen Bexley. This page is driving so many animators that Bones openly weep. Yes. Creating all the angst. This baby is so peaceful. I love her. No Toya's over here. Ain't that right, Gene Bean? Let's see. And the explosion of flames. Come on, Toya. Put out those flames. Watch me. I don't want to watch you die. Not to. Let's play. Oh, man. He really has just kind of lost his mind. His mind's long gone. This fire is hot enough to burn even me. So how's it possible that he still can hold himself together? Toya, what is it about you? That visceral sense of danger when facing death. Sometimes a near-death experience can trigger a quirk to awaken. On the other hand, people can also summon absurd power in a crisis. When it's do or die, that's different than a quirk awakening. That power only manifests the Reaper draws near. As the Reaper draws near. Ray's quirk. So there we go. So he's able to code himself in ice, which, man, okay, I promise I did not read the chapter in advance or look at any spoilers because stuff that I'm saying in the middle of the stream is happening a couple pages later. I promise. Y'all know me. I'll skew my entire algorithm just so I don't see MHA spoilers. This is just stuff that I've been talking about and curious about for a really long time regarding Dobby's quirk, and we're kind of getting the payoff for how it was described this whole time. We're getting payoff for the fact that Dobby's quirk was never named. People always thought that his quirk, or so people used to just call it cremation by default, just because we saw him cremating people with it. But now we're finally getting to see that his quirk was something more, which I think this makes what's happening here even more tragic. Because if you think about what Dobby says repeatedly as we get into the third act, is how he was only ever taught how to turn up the heat. And if he had been taught how to lower temperatures, if he had been taught how to regulate the flames, if Endeavor had put a little more time into like showing him how to have higher and cooler flames and how to control that, maybe we would have stumbled upon these icy powers earlier instead of having to wait until he was, close to death's door. And so now we see him having all these flashbacks. I'll win today and keep my eyes on Toya. I take full responsibility. I swore to bear that burden and live my life atoning for it all. However, you've been watching this all this time. While I couldn't be there to watch you, you were someone I especially needed to do right by. It's always the same dream. My whole family's there, but not me. No, I can't let you meet your end alone. I can't cover enough ground quickly, though. Enough. So instead, we'll ride your fire straight into the sky, Toya. Just a bit longer. No, don't blow yet. Whoa. Kimura blood runs thick. And we see Rei Todoroki burning as she tries to put out the flames as well. Man. And of course, the flashback to the panel. You're guilty too, Mom. All right, first off, I got to get these bishops up in here because things are getting spicy in this story. Things are spicy indeed. Let me get my people in here. Trolley. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We got it going. And this little baby's asleep. Yeah. Gently reading the story to her, put her to bed. What a nice. Let's see. Oral Koshina's parallels. You commented on this possibility back with Toya versus Shirto. after that big ice move. So let's explain how he's using phosphor, but also how he's still kicking. He's using ice internally, I suppose. I adore that French translation. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm really glad that I got rid of socials. Is this the right way to put out a fire now? Dobby might tree rate different. Endeavor isn't as high off the ground as I thought initially, but mom's here, so the kids will be involved soon. Most precious little baby. Uh, let's see. Endeavor's small compared to that Fire Fist. Oh, definitely. That Fire Fist was massive. Hey, cyber anime glitches. This so yeah. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. Ray getting involved is like one of the best things that could happen for her story, just because she spent so much time traumatized. And to a certain degree, if you think back to, how it was described, letting her dad kind of sell her off, not really resisting, a lot of Ray's life, she's kind of stuck having things happen to her. Um, and so at this juncture of the story, even if she gets hurt, for the pain to be the byproduct of her choice, her decisions, of her taking action, and her trying to do what's right to protect her son, um, there's a certain beauty in the pain, um, where instead of just letting her son die, even if Nabi or Toya still dies here, it's worth it. But what's fascinating is that if you guys go back to 2019, and this is asking a lot, but I'm not going to actually ask you to go watch that video, because it's old, it's dusty. But Tarnish mentioned it one time in passing, one of the old Endeavor videos I did, or the old Endeavor video I did, which I guess now is almost 4 years old, since we're in May, and this channel started making content officially in April of 2019. But I talked about how I thought of Endeavor as somebody whose final actions could possibly be a suicide, and how he himself was dealing with sorry, let me not say that more than once, self-unalive ideation, because you know how YouTube gets about that demonetization. Uh, ain't like I get a bunch of money off this anyway, but still. Uh, so this what I had mentioned is that he talked about how he deserved to be burned away, how he was like, you are me, or some twisted version of me from a future where my obsession with power. And it's worth noting that that arc is also the same time that the first time we get an interaction between Dabi and Endeavor, where Endeavor specifically calls him Enji Todoroki. So what I was kind of hinting at was this idea of Endeavor self-sacrificing in his final moments. And if you remember, even during the war arc, when we were streaming, I would joke with Sayaz about Endeavor possibly choosing to end his own life. And here he made the commitment to die. And it's having Ray intercede and attempt to do something to help that is going to potentially stop him from dying. So that same self-sacrifice, that willingness to die, that's born to a certain degree from a pit of despair and self-loathing, still coming into play here. What's more is that based on the injuries he got from All For One, based off, the whole, just the amount of damage he took here, part of his face had already started to melt off. It could, like, Ray could either save them both, end up only saving Toya. We don't know how it's going to go down, but we know that the burn that Shoto has is like a frost burn. So we kind of can see what's going to happen, and whether or not Endeavor's dream of not being there, because we've seen Hawks lose his quirk, and we see All Might putting himself into a position where, realistically, it's going to be rough for him to survive this. So the old guard, even though Hawks is like a blend of the two, who I think is obviously going to move into eventually running the Hero Safety Commission when this is all said and done, or at the very least being in a position of high power within it to eventually take it over. So the idea that maybe, just maybe, the Todoroki family, because we know that with what All for One and with Deku have said to each other, no pie in the sky endings, I do think that nothing gets to be a 100% victory. That's kind of what we saw in Camino, right? It was like this Pyrrhic victory. Yes, All Might defeated All for One, but at the cost of his public image, at the cost of, as we explored during the Rise of the Villain saga, starting with Provisional License arc, the increase in gangs, increase in criminal activity, the destabilization and lowering of morale. There was, yes, All for One was defeated, but the cost to it was so high. And then you have, the next cycle or whatever, where, yeah, the heroes technically stopped Shigaraki from reaching 100% when they raided, but that was pretty much the only thing that good they could say. And like, even if you look at how the villains won, it was still a Pyrrhic victory. Shigaraki wasn't properly in control of his body anymore. They left behind compressed. They lost their everything that Shigaraki built up to a certain degree had been snatched away from him by All for One and by the heroes. So while Shigaraki technically won, destroying, destabilizing society, it was all at the cost of his own free will, his own, bodily autonomy. The league that he had built up, he lost half of it. Just a lot of loss along with that victory. So here we're heading into the final section, and once again, even though like we all expect the heroes to win, we don't expect Shigaraki to finish this series as in charge of society or anything like that. It's very clear, in my mind at least, that any victory we get is going to be a Pyrrhic one. There's going to be a cost. And I don't think Deku gets out of his fight with Shigaraki without any wounds comparable to or nearing the level that we've seen with Endeavor, that we will see with All Might more than likely, that we'll see with anything else. Just like All Might was Iron Might was foreshadowed through those color pages, where you had the color page all the way back in the beginning of the first the Deku Black arc, where the students were building that Iron Might or that All Might robot, and then you followed it up with the Hero Fest color page where the robot was complete. We did have the random Hero Fest or Jump Fest to sketch, where you had Deku with his arm in the air and Shigaraki was grabbing onto it. You could see the decay cracks on it. So if we're looking at consistency between how Horikoshi likes to tell on himself and the way that this stuff is utilized, it kind of looks like it's almost inevitable that we'll end up in this position. And let me read some of the chat, just because I've been rambling on, and that I know you guys are technically here for my thoughts, but let me not be a narcissist about this. Let me just grab this. Really glad Dabi didn't get defeated that early with Shoto. Some people think it's inevitable for Dabi to come back on his feet, mostly on the MHA subreddit. So the ironic thing about Dabi coming back is that I remember that was the one time I hosted a Twitter space, and in that space, I explained that Dabi was going to replicate Shoto's move, and that the glow and that what the glow from his chest was, and I so accurately predicted it that somebody tagged me in the tweet during spoilers, and I didn't know what they meant, and they were like, "Holy crap, you basically called it 100%." And I didn't know what he meant until I read the chapter when officials dropped. But yes, I do view this battle as a goodbye to the old generation. Mother's Day is next Sunday. We'll be getting mommy. We don't plan for something for mommy. Would have gladly watched. Let's see. Nathan, I would have gladly watched a story just involving the Todoroki clan. The B story is so good and so very tragic. MHA subreddit. Let's see. And anime subreddits are generally don't know what assholes are. That's pretty true.
We don't talk about the subreddit.
Correct. Welcome aboard, Thomas. Or
hello.
Going to do this to us again. Watch Father's Day be about All Might or something. Hey, Tyler, she's at the movies with his little brother to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. Understandable.
Watching Peak.
Total Recall is just the best B in the series. Hope you enjoy Turner. Thomas, wishing well. Let's see. Another question is: the news reporter will still cover the events of Google with Ochako or the Todorokis, or will they go over to All Might vs. AFO? Who will work Deku and Shiggy over to this fight? All right. So now that we got caught back up on the chat, welcome Thomas and welcome Coyote. How are y'all
Welcome,
doing?
Coyote.
What's good? What's good? What's good?
Coyote is officially a bishop, primarily off the back of his hard work grinding in the Discord server, assisting and making sure that that's always up and running. It's great to have you on stream though, because you do usually have some at least interesting takes. Sometimes you go full meme lord, but
They're very, very interesting, especially the pro hero takes. But
Oh yeah, you hear about Pro Hero Chisaki?
tell me about Pro Hero Chisaki.
I 100% believe by the end of this series, Eri is gonna rewind Chisaki because the heroes need someone who can 100% take out these twice clones, and that is gonna be Pro Hero Chisaki. They're gonna have a moment where she forgives Chisaki. She's gonna have to not grow up, but face her fears and her trauma in Chisaki and say, "I forgive you." She's gonna 100% forgive Chisaki at the end of this.
Not to like demonetize the stream, but like you're on crack.
That is the beauty of my takes.
Also, I just want to take a real quick moment, as my producer just reminded me that it is Mr. Saucer from the Discord's birthday. I don't know if he's watching the stream right now, but we want to give a happy birthday shout out to Mr. Saucer.
Happy birthday, Saucer.
Happy birthday.
Hey,
Ponzi.
Ponzi.
What's up, guys? How are you doing, y'all?
Doing good.
Oh, Tarnish wants me to talk about the stain twice theory I have.
Oh, what's that?
This is an actual good one, okay? Unlike the Chisaki, this has some grounds. All right. So I believe that Stain is going to paralyze the entire Twice army. Now, this sounds crazy, I know, but Stain is going to lick either Twice or Toga's blood, and it's going to paralyze the entire army because on the basis of a Twice clone, none of them would be different in genetics in real, none of them would be basically different in genetics. So if he licked their blood, there wouldn't really be a difference in it all. So I think that could, in essence, lead to Stain paralyzing multiple of the clones at once. Because I don't think it's been stated he couldn't necessarily do that.
Well, let's see. We have the hard factual established precedent in the Hosu City incident where he, was able to lock down multiple targets. All it just took was having their blood. I mean, he was able to lick a Nomu's blood off of a random hero's cheek, and that sounds worse than what it actually is.
Yes.
Blame it on colloquialisms.
Some
Stain
corpse
is
blood,
down and dirty.
some corpse blood.
And was able to freeze the Nomu. So I think people would kind of be mad about it because they didn't think about it, but it's not exactly out of nowhere. It's one of those things, and it's very Horikoshi style because he likes to just hand you the answer, but it's in a way that's so disconnected that you don't put it together. Even
Stain
like
is
this,
also coming to the Gunga, right?
We don't
he
really
might be.
know.
We don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah. We know he has like a glider. I don't know if he's going to follow them to Gunga or is he going to go straight to UA?
And which, like somebody else said, subduing the Twice clones here isn't that horrible because we still have the Twice clones at floating at UA.
Very much.
Which, when you think about the fact that Stain was also part of why Toga joined the league, that's actually a really good opportunity to also open up some dialogue between Stain and the people who joined the league following him, not realizing he didn't like the league in the first place. Which obviously that's not as important as it at this juncture of the story, but it is still something that I think a lot of us would have liked to have seen explored, and it does open up that doorway.
I do think out of everyone like that Stain could go to, I think Toga is the best option. Because I don't want him to go to Davi because it feels more crowded. It has to be the family with Davi, not anyone else. Deku's another
Facts.
option, but
We just read the chapter, so it stays in the family, so it's important. But the concept about the thick blood, I didn't understand it quite well. What they mean by that?
wait, you didn't understand what?
Maybe it's because of because I'm not speaking English.
Mhm.
So the fact that the Himra had thick blood, they made that their blood was like powerful, or what did they mean by that? What was
It's more so to me. It's the proverb: the blood is thicker than water.
Basically, he's saying the Todorokis are inbred as fuck.
yeah, I knew that. I understood that. I understood that the
Which is wild.
Yeah, that's it. In the Todorokis, you mean the on the mother side that they're inbred as fuck. That was the thing. That was the concept. So I understood that. But because they were trying to keep the blood pure. That's what the concept was. That was the idea. The kings does the same. Kings and queens in Boston back in the day, they were doing the same thing. They tried to keep the family, to keep the blood pure. They kept breeding each other. That was the concept, because if you had not good blood, you couldn't. You know what I mean. The blood was not pure enough, and for that kind of quirk, I was thinking more about ice quirks, but what did it do for Dabby? What is the effect of Dabby's heart? He has a heart of ice, because I couldn't understand what was. I didn't.
So
I'm still vague on this chapter. If you can see.
so the way I look at it is that when Dobby was like, "Oh, this is how you replicate the phosphor move," we knew that
Oh.
phosphor is created by cycling hot and cold blood through the body as it's warmed up on both sides. So with effectively what's happened is that plot point about him having Ray's body is finally actually, because when they talk about like heteromorphic quirks, they talk about how, which is I think the reason why they emphasize that at the beginning of this chapter, is heteromorphic quirks visually change your body.
Yes.
So in this case, what we're seeing is the full potential of the genetics that he got out. This also kind of means that anybody in the Todoroki family arguably has this potential now. So even if we don't see, so what he's doing is effectively lowering the temperature of his body.
Yes.
For starting with his heart and around, which is helping that keep pumping, keeping that blood cycling, which is allowing him to maintain some semblance of functionality. So effectively just he's getting the payoff for having raised constitution, and that fire isn't burning him as quickly as expected or as it should be based on what we know about it. Now he's already lost his arm from doing that big flash fire vanishing fist, but the idea is still that if it's kind of a supposed to be a tragic situation, right? If Endeavor had trained Toya, if he had tried to help him lower the temperature, he would have uncovered this ice power. So one of the things that I had always said was I didn't like the term Quirk Awakening because I felt like it misrepresented what was going on with what people were doing. Geten had not attempted to lower the temperature of ice until he saw someone burning. Similarly, Dobby has only ever raised the heat. He has never been taught how to lower it, which means he never got the chance to even potentially explore this Arctic side of his quirk. So now his body is just doing it out of survival instinct. So this kind of, and it's funny because the thing that started this whole conversation of Quirk Awakenings really was My Villain Academia. So bringing Geten back here is to like recenter that conversation. And it's once again kind of emphasizing, if you don't explore what you can do with your quirk, if you don't try to do the opposite of what you think your quirk can do, you will sometimes miss out on the full potential of your quirk. It may have more range than you ever realized. And you're right, Tarnish. I did predict that the Hamura clan was on some bullshit. So
yes, you know, I was thinking about that when I was reading it. But the Himura stuff was some bullshit, and also that they were linked with with Gaten in general. I was thinking about literally the thing that you were saying was happening, happening for real. So yeah, the fact, the first thing, even when we were talking about Quirk Awakening, I made even a thread about it that was like not real. There was more people was discovering aspects of their quirk. Like the best was Toga. That was the extent because the fact that she could replicate people through their DNA, the quirks were linked to the DNA. So it was the normal function, idea, and the right path to think was she could activate use other people's quirk. And before that, we had in the manga the game. One Justice put it to also one of the powers of Toga that she could use also the quirks of the people that she copied. That was something interesting. So they already knew what was happening before the manga, or before the manga, if I remember well. So yeah. Okay. Thank you for explaining also for the chapter because maybe I read it fast, too fast because it's been a long time without chapters, so I need I went too fast through my doses, My Hero Academia. But yeah, this chapter was kind of and definitely really a good character. I,
Look,
he keeps
Horikoshi kind of pulled out all the stops with the Toto fan, and I'm not 100% certain what led to him being like, "Nah, I gotta just go this hard for this," but I love it.
yeah. The thing about it is like when you think of it, through the plot of the story, it was not bad. It is this story is I will say it is a accumulation about the social, how that kind of work can affect the family and social work. It is a social study. The Todoroki family is a social study in a Japanese environment of a family in general, how the Japanese family's situation functions and stuff. The fact about and like just to see this and the kind of everything that he put on table, it's really amazing because it makes me it gets that kind of I I want more stories like this of My Hero Academia. You know what I mean about the effects about the social economic structure in general, how people, families are affected. We get it, so much with some little examples, even with the Hawks in general, his story about his parents and stuff. How that effect of even All Might being kind of a myth in some places in Japan because he was jumping from cities to cities. So it is literally something beautiful to see how good that he can write stories, Horikoshi. Really, I'm still in awe. Running my own story right now, and I can tell you, I feel like I'm feeling like how can I do something like this? Because it has also to go well with your own story, but still, it's admiring that kind of skill is yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I love his character writing and how he can mold it with his how I use the characters to tell so big story about the world building in general. I love it. Really love it.
All right. So one of the things I want to address real quick is Cameron Bailey came through in the chat and said, um, "Do you think that the Gatan reveal was needed?" So my personal stance on this, and not from this was another Church of MHAW, not from that angle, but from the angle of why it happened. I think it was actually a really good idea to do this here, specifically because Gaten was one kind of plucked out of the story early, but two, it kind of came off as just a fire versus ice matchup when it first happened in NBA. And then, of course, you had Gaten's features, which some people were wondering, is he going to be a Himura? Is he not? But what it kind of does is it shows you that Dabi's opposition, outside of when he attacked, the forest camp, which the only people he never directly fought anyone. His clone fought Aizawa, but Dabi, the actual person, has only fought family throughout this entire story now. Oh, not counted like obviously like fodder, but like I'm talking about like stories that like story beat fights. Like we're sitting here, we're reading this, we have a conflict going. Family is always involved in Dabi's conflicts. He is always lashing out at his family. MVA tying Dabi versus Gaten. It also kind of makes it where Gaten specifically being one of the first, like the first person who it was directly stated had a quirk awakening, which keep in mind that in the arc that they stated that Gaten had a quirk awakening. I always say this when I talk about how quirk awakening isn't real. They thought Toga had a quirk awakening, and it was outright stated by her, no. They had just never seen her take the blood of someone she loved, and nobody actually knew what her that her quirk could go that far. Similarly, they thought that Shigaraki had a quirk awakening because he all of a sudden started spreading the decay. That was not the case because we had gotten that flashback of him as a child spreading his decay. People sometimes try to say that Twice had like a reawakening, but that's not true. We know that he was able to make clones when he was younger of himself. He just stopped doing that for his own psychological safety. So in that arc, we kind of went, there's no awakenings, there's mental blockages, as Ponzu just put in the chat. So for which, another thing that I want to emphasize here real quick is we didn't see any kind of awakening as far as quirk goes for Spinner. But what we did see was Spinner fully latching on to Shigaraki here, which was, if you remember the thing that Trumpet made fun of him for, he was kind of like, you're just a guy who hangs on to things. You're a hanger-oner. Your quirk is only worth sticking to walls. It's really not that great of a quirk. So like his awakening was him latching on to Shigaraki's ideology fully and fully becoming on board with the League after having his doubts expressed earlier in the arc. When you look at Compress, was complete mystery, barely did anything, was purposely like hidden throughout that story. The only person in the League besides those, Compress, who did not have a awakening of some kind was Dabi, who, just happened to have been fighting his head, was just constantly throwing out big old pie plates, and we didn't really get a lot of emphasis on that fight. So here we see the awakening that he could have gotten in My Villain Academia if he had thought a bit more to like try to match the ice or deal with the ice because his body was able to put up with it anyway, that he would have gotten. And if he had figured this power out back in My Villain Academia, how does he lose to Shoto? That's not even a rhetorical question, actually. If you guys feel like answer, how does Shoto beat him for even a moment if Dabi figures his power out back then?
No, Shoto ain't ever touching Dabi. Dabi is literally a prodigy. Like, I don't know. I think it's crazy, even because Dabi can't train like normally right now, and he's literally the strongest fire user we've seen in general, because every time he has to use his fire, it's literally taking a piece of himself. So if he was able to train and not take a piece of himself, he would be one of the most strongest people in My Hero.
I will say that Dabi is just like a freaking hard worker. The thing about is like he works so hard with to work against his own body. Because from what we understand is that he was burning himself every time. And I can tell you, I burned myself multiple times. Every time that he uses his power, is working against that. It's about this how hard he worked to negate his own side and also his body that make him so great, I will say. And the fact that it is at the level, it came at a level that he didn't feel anything anymore after the accident that happened in the mountain. He couldn't feel his own burn. So he came at, that's why he could tap in that power. The fact is that he was always subjected to be able to use. He was the concept is what his power was supposed to be the best version of Enji's quirk. Why? Because Enji was just wanted to find someone who could use the most powerful fire without having his problem of overheat. And he was supposed to be, when you see what his quirk was supposed to be, it was to be that, because the quirk of Rei was supposed to cool his body while he could use these kinds of temperature, like the highest powers of flames. It was like a more efficient in he couldn't be able to use ice as ice like Shoto would be able to use. He would have used flames at the best at the highest flame possible. That was the concept. So I really love the fact that like the subtleties about the story in general, about how Enji finally got what he wanted with his first kid. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that all this thing went wrong, that he couldn't train him well. It's so dramatic. More and more I think about it, it's sad. It's freaking sad. And he's attaining the level that that his father wanted to have, like power wise. He became what his father was, the monster that the kind of monster that he had in himself, and the monster that he had before that he before that he to reflect on himself, that kind of power, that monster, power hungry monster that he had, that he was so, that the frustration you see literally that he's Debbie is the product of that, and who ugly he looks and everything. Yo, Horikoshi is too good, man. He's too good. He's too good. Yeah.
Look,
Sorry.
it's like
We also have a
Horikoshi.
super chat.
Oh, yeah, let me hit that super chat. Mr. Andrew coming through. I wonder if this is all we're getting of compressed the rest of the story. We know Hori said that he's coming back. I hope it's more than this. So let me look at something real quick, because I want to know where they are, for starters.
So from what
Because
we can see, it seems like they're in the same prison as the as Garaki. Yeah. So I assume they're all in that building.
also Garaki gets no credit for Dabi's glow up.
Oh, for sure. Most people are talking about is All for One.
Like Garaki nor All for One get any credit, because all they did was put the grafts in, right? So they put his body back together. But they expected him to be dead in 3 months, which means everything you see from Dabi outside of that 3 months, that's him. That's him being him. That's him having that dog in him. When you see him walking in them streets, those are himbalins. None of that dog that he got is from Garaki. That's why Garaki is so impressed by him. That's why Garaki had to butter him up. That's why Garaki was like, "You get a no move," and then he was like, "Let me follow it back with another no move." Like, don't cook me alive if you don't mind. Like he understood. This is a kid we kidnapped like 10 years ago, and he's back. Let me make sure he's happy with us. And he selected him and was like, "Dabi, I got a mission for you." And like him being like, "Oh, I got a mission for Dabi," yeah, was just him covering his ass, bro. Like, because if Dabi decided to, he could have, like, as funny as this is that if Dabi had put Garaki in the dirt at any time, it technically would have been deserved, and it wasn't beyond the scope of possibility, right? Like
Yeah.
when he walked in there, Dobby could have been like, "All right, it's the Dunzo Manifesto." For those of you who watched competitive league back in like 2014, you know what the Dunzo Manifesto is, but could have pulled up, wiped out all the Nomu. To a certain degree, the worst thing that could have happened to the League of Villains, or as far as Dr. Garaki's research is concerned, is Dobby deciding all the Nomu need to die. If Dobby had walked in there and been like, "You did to a bunch of people what you were going to try to do to me, and if I had died here, you would have done this to me," oh, it's raps. Because if regular red Dobby, like Endeavor level Flash Fire, can do what it did to any of the Nomu that took a brain shot, what is happening when they get incinerated by Dobby?
Oh man. We saw it in the anime in the second season.
Yep.
It just brought
Carbonated cells don't regenerate.
They regenerate fast.
Also, I have a question. Like it links straight to what Angie was saying, but what you think of Compress's like interaction with Gaten, and how Gaten said, "Hear anything good from the cops or the heroes? Whatever you got, entertain me." What do you think he was talking to, or what he was talking about?
I think there's definitely some kind of they're trying to just exchange information, it looks like. But I'm guessing they tried to pull Compress for information or something like that, because technically Compress never killed anybody that we're aware of. He was just kind of along for the ride almost at every turn. So of the people in the league, he's the one most susceptible or eligible for forgiveness, for being re-released, for having a weakened sentence. But he's also the descendant of Oji Harima, so to a certain degree they might be having a lot of questions about how his family escaped, going to prison, all that other stuff. But and even with his hands being bottled up, right, like he's got the robo arm still for some reason. So the question kind of becomes, for me at least, first off, can they actually hold this man? Because I'm looking at it and he might be connected to a machine, and that's the real reason he's still there. Because if you think
I've always
about it,
wondered that about how do they really restrain like the quirked people? Because remember in Tartarus, Muscular was locked up, but after seeing him pick up a building, I wonder. I'm pretty sure he probably could have broke out. Maybe, I don't know. Especially because Moonfish was just eating at his jail cell. So what was stopping him from using his teeth? Do they have like guns in place to shoot him up if they think about it? I don't know. I really want to know how they do it.
I know that they said they seem to have some kind of brainwave monitoring tech for All for One that specifically was going to fire off a bunch of rounds if you tried to use it work. But
I don't know if like Society My Hero is at the point where they have like dampeners. Yeah, kind of like how in the CW Flash, how the jail cells that they have, they inhibit like their powers. Yeah. So I don't know if they have that technology.
That works.
Oh, that too. That's a better example. I just fired off what came to my mind. I do agree that like maybe it's about Oji Harima, because it seems like it's a big secret that's being kept from us, because we went straight from Gaten saying we're just killing time until the battle's end, unless Hori just wants them to bond, which is possible.
I could just see that the whole scene was just there to build more on the Dobby thing as a good transition to it.
Yeah, like if it's a functional Dobby thing, like we've seen. And what's interesting is that this prison has been used at least twice now to build up the Dobby situation, because if you remember before the fight between Shoto and Dobby, there was the part where we got that explanation from Garaki about the facility, where he's like, that boy never bought what we were selling. So like for some reason, this prison is being censored as a hype piece for Dobby. And what I find interesting is that Gaten, like there has to be something in here to like stop Gaten from going wild. Because I'm gonna be real with you, if I was him, I would be sitting here like it's cold. You can see that they can see their breath based off both shots. So You know what I'd be doing? Patooey.
Like Katara from the what was it?
Yeah.
I would just be building up spit and then moving the ice and then like freezing it, moving it towards my stuff, and eventually just busting out. Patooey.
Mhm.
And that's what I would be doing. That's all my free time would just be basically salivating everywhere, which is gross, sure.
But it's
But it
know,
effective.
works.
But you know
Yeah.
it's even more gross being in prison. So
You're not wrong. I do think like the feedback from the community for this chapter was kind of wild, especially with Ray, because the way I look at it is that there was no way she wasn't going to be there. And especially because last chapter we saw they were underneath Dobby and Endeavor. So of course they got up to the surface and she went straight there.
yeah,
I mean, I
that's the
think
other thing too,
makes
right?
perfect sense.
So the question that I would have in a situation where somebody's upset about this is, what did you expect to happen when we got that emphasis on like when we were given emphasis on them having to get away, right? Like them being stuck under the ground, them being
Yeah.
at this site. What other than them reaching the surface were you expecting?
Because
Did
it's
you think
right
it was
there in the
just
chapter. They said,
like-
let's get up. We got to
We're just gonna-
evacuate.
I
we're
mean,
just gonna turn the lights back on and just yeah, let's just ignore like no. The fact that the ground was collapsing around them probably means that those rails are blocked.
Mm-hmm.
There is no escaping. There's only confronting the situation. And when they were at the hospital, did they say, yeah, Shoto, you're gonna fight Dobby separately,
Only
and then
you.
Dad's gonna fight separately? Yeah. Or did they say, we're going to handle this as a family?
I think people are just mainly mad about it because they didn't think that the family was going to get involved because they want Endeavor to die very badly, that they thought that he was just going to stay away from the family the entire time.
Here's the thing. Endeavor, like, on one hand, would it be nice to get a story or get a situation where Endeavor gives up being Endeavor, learns how to just be Inji Todoroki, and is truly a father to his family in some form, shape, or way? Sure. Because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of loss involved in this story. Like, the Hawks isn't going to be a hero anymore. All Might's probably kicking the bucket. We haven't seen Gran Torino since he handed his cape over to Deku, which, hey, we'll one day figure out if he's alive or not. That's something that people, I think it's fair for people to be irritated about, but I still think we need to, like, get some more information about that before we decide, like, this is how that went down or not. But there's just a lot of, are there a lot of question marks in some of this stuff? Yeah, but I don't see the point in sitting here acting like, okay, definitively this shit's been handled because it hasn't. And I think we need to be a bit more patient and wait to see, because Endeavor living isn't exactly
Off
the
the
most
like scale.
like yeah, it's not off the scale, but it's not exactly what I expect. But I care about how it's executed. That's always
sure.
I care if something that, and I don't like, people don't have to like the same thing. I just care about, like, when I look at how something's executed, I want to be like, if I can go back, even if I didn't predict something, right? If I can go back and look at something and go, there was a nod here, then I'm usually okay with it. Because I'm like, okay, this, and this were things that could have contributed to this that I just missed. For example, when we were looking at the second user, we knew that he had some kind of projectile device on his arm. It didn't look like, and we figured there wasn't some kind of laser cannon, right? Because lasers seem to be something that really only the US government currently has in My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
So, which is another reason why the Iron Mite suit isn't that crazy. If there's people with actual laser cannons, like the most wealthy person and most famous.
I mean,
hero getting a
UA
suit.
built like a whole planet, not planet, but a whole like city that's moving. I'm sure All Might could make something.
And especially because he has like connections with UA, especially Principal Nezu, who essentially just funded it all.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't far-fetched for him to get the Iron Mite suit. it's more so people didn't, to me personally, they didn't understand how like current society in My Hero Academia could give him that. But there's no reason why he wouldn't have
I
that
think people that are upset about
before.
the Iron Might always bring up the point of Deku. Well, he could have done it by himself.
Oh.
Fail to realize that Iron Might would realistically cost like millions
Oh, sure.
on millions, and it's like they want this young kid with no money to be able to spend millions on a suit out of nowhere.
Yep. People don't. Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to
Deku
that
built
kind of
that
stuff,
suit in a box with a box of scraps in a cave.
people don't like acknowledging. So
Hey, Joseph.
Hi.
people ignore the universe contingencies that make people like Batman and Iron Man work.
Mhm.
In the case of Batman, if you, especially before like everybody was constantly in a shared universe of stories, or when you're primarily writing him, like you don't need super advanced technology. Like think about it. If Batman were consistently written to factor in supers, he would always be in an Iron Man suit.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
But instead, we tone down the level of his opponents often as far as the escalation and the scale of which DC can operate at.
Mhm.
So that things like batarangs can be effective, which are just fancy ninja stars that sometimes explode or have like sleep gas in them or smoke screens. That stuff only works because the people he's fighting aren't at the level of a lot of villains that MHA has. That's just like the reality of the situation, right?
Yeah.
Like Freeze, for example, he has a very clear tactical weakness. He has that fucking dome he keeps over his head that helps him like stay safe.
Mhm.
Hell, I like the Young Justice version where his dome gets cracked. It's like, no, bye. And he just like puts ice over his whole head and falls over. Or Bane, who when he's on the Venom, he's got the plug in the back of his head that you can always target him. When that supply is cut, it immediately causes like whiplash and withdrawal.
Mhm.
There's usually some pretty like borderline video game boss level type weaknesses to balance out the characters within the Batman series. Like if Batman goes against Overhaul, it's, oh no, you hit me with like 6 batarangs. Let me reshuffle that. Oh, let me build these batarangs into my hands.
Let me
It's
fix
claws
my
now.
body.
And I'm gonna shuffle this around. Oh, you dodged that. Cool. Now here's some spikes flying at you. Something. Boom, dead. Like
Obviously, the power scale in DC has gotten very bad, but like the common enemies that Batman or Green Arrow fights are nothing compared to like My Hero. If anything, you could toss in Killer Croc is the closest like a My Hero villain would ever be to Batman.
The closest I was thinking of like a real like
2120 also.
super powered villain was like probably Bane with Venom, but yeah,
Oh, for sure.
Killer Croc's a good one too.
Similarly, Iron Man works because while other people have some powers, his technological advancements are so high that he's basically got superpowers like by proxy.
Mhm.
Like he's so
Mhm.
smart that his weapons, like he creates AIs, he creates all these things to offset the differential. But he's rich, which is the other thing that like. So if you want to make this thing work in My Hero, one, you kind of need to be rich, but two, you need access to these kinds of resources and stuff like that. You can't make an everyman story, an everyman character also be like this technological genius that's going to get shit done in My Hero, because it doesn't work within the verse, because everybody, specifically the people who he would be going against, also have access to tech on par with the tech that he would be making. So if you have tech on equal footing, but you also have superpowers, you're probably going to beat the guy that's just tech. And even when you look at Iron Mike, he is realistically losing to All for One. Like, as much as I want to see a cool thing with like the Hulkbuster gauntlet that maybe has like electromagnetic plasma energy shit, and he gets like an electroplasmic fist and a laser beam and some other shit. Do I think that's going to be wrong? Yeah, sure. Let him get like a fucking cyber sword so he can look like Mega Man NC Warrior and attack. But like, I expect him to still get his ass beat.
You know, my
So we
joke.
all.
Oh. My joke
Yeah.
after last chapter was that this one was gonna be called I Am There, and There, and There, and Over There.
Okay, the thing, so we're all okay to say that All Might has a lot of chance to die right now.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
Okay,
death flags
so,
are everywhere.
Okay, that's fine. And for Cameron Bailey, Kirkless Deku could work with May. Sorry, man. Our boss already told us why. Because everybody has this also have access to May. So Bakugo have access to May. Every character have somebody at that level that can do some stuff with them. So there will be already advantages having a quirk. If they have a defensive quirk, imagine having a defensive quirk and you use May for your offensive capabilities. What are you as a normal being? You've already lost your fight already, technically. And if you're also smart, if you're a smart guy comparable with Deku, you will lose at 99% of the time. So,
I think like
Hold
I
on,
think
real
oh,
quick. I
super
gotta
chat.
address the super
oh,
chat that I almost
Terrence,
missed.
yeah.
Yep. Deku was never going to surpass Knuckle Duster and Crawler if he went that route.
Oh,
So
for sure.
first off, props to using Crawler because that's what people accidentally called him all the time. But
Mhm.
two,
The Crawler
Knuckle
is a
Duster.
go-to nickname.
Knuckle Duster used to have a quirk.
A quirk. He used to have a quirk.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've talked about on these streams before is that My Hero, unlike a lot of series, as much as people be like, the APs, if you can destroy a building with your energy blast, you could obviously take the damage that it would take to generate. A lot of series do not factor that physics into their physicality of characters. I'm sorry,
Facts.
you need to acknowledge
My
this
Hero
and accept
99%
it.
of the time does. Like, and also
So-
the whole like Deku quirkless thing could work. It can work, but it won't be My Hero. The My Hero you know and love would not be the same if Deku was quirkless. Horikoshi would have to change everything. If anything, if you wanted quirkless Deku, watch read Nightwing comics or watch Teen Titans. If you want that.
The scale and the scope of the story drops massively. And it's not
Yes.
Batman slander, it's Batman accountability.
Yes.
You'll never want to hold Batman accountable for his weaknesses. No.
Mhm.
But Knuckle Duster, so if you have a quirk, your body adjusts to the quirk. Knuckle Duster's physicality, even if he's a little bulkier than he was when he had a quirk, his body still needed to be strong enough to deal with the speed that he was outputting and deal with like how fast he was moving and all that other stuff. So he still has that built up muscle mass, bone density, etc., that was built up by moving at those speeds for a good chunk of his life.
Didn't
So his
it also
body
mess with his
is
brain or
adapted to
something?
that.
Wait, what'd you say, Coyote?
But
Didn't his quirk also mess with his brain or something?
yeah, it also allowed him to think and perceive things way faster.
Yes.
Literally,
Like-
it was flash time. It was flash
Yeah.
time.
Knuckle Duster wouldn't be Knuckle Duster if he was quirkless.
Like from the get-go.
Yeah,
And
from
not
the
to
get-go.
mention, how does quirkless Deku with no support items, if he's fighting from the hero course, keep in mind he has to be fighting in the hero course, otherwise he's a support course dude that happens to be doing well in the sports festival, just like May, which again, May can't exist in a world that Deku is supposed to be like May, which how far would May have gotten with the technology she displayed in the sports festival?
Against
Like-
regular bum villains, maybe, but not like the B tiers.
Yeah.
Because part of it was Ida being so noble, right? But like if Ida had just been like reciprocal drop kick, she would have just flown out the ring and been done. Like that would have been it. Just a speed blitz. Just done.
He would have
Donezo.
knocked her into the third row.
Also,
Like-
the whole that little interaction with Ida and May out on the field. If anything, Horikoshi was also playing out for jokes. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. If anything, you were meant to laugh. If a villain went against May with that tech, she would die.
Muscular
her
goes
babies
at
will
May,
crumble.
she's dead.
Absolutely. All her children would die.
One of the best moments in Act 1 is Deku versus Muscular. He gonna punch Muscular? Like, what is he gonna do to Muscular?
Mm-hmm.
The same guy that can throw buildings.
I'm gonna be honest. You can argue how well Horikoshi did this dynamic or executed it, but Deku and Ayama's relationship would not work if he didn't have One for All.
Like, there's so much that is functionally not going to work, and like so one of the things that I remember I ran into, somebody was like, "Fine, enjoy your ableist comic," when they were talking about My Hero not letting quirkless people be heroes, and I'm like, it would be I'm like, no, this is not, because like what you end up doing is basically saying it doesn't matter if you have a disability, you need to do all the same stuff. You don't have an excuse. Like most of the time, like it works as a fantasy up until people start applying that logic to the real world. Then it becomes very, very, very problematic, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you were watching Kotoko's Numbas and they had wheelchairs. Like, people like wheelchair people could be in the NBA. Technically, if you're good enough that a wheelchair doesn't stop you from being in the NBA, you can be in the NBA.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really fucking hard for you to be good enough in a wheelchair to overcome the height disparity and all that other stuff that leads to your shots getting blocked. And like the amount of shit you would need to do and be good at in order to like it's just not likely. And so what would be more fair and what would be equitable is giving you an equal playing field, which is why there's wheelchair basketball leagues. Because if I can just block your shots because you have to shoot from 2-3 feet lower than I do, which gives me way more time to either get in the air to block your shot or in
Just get in the
general,
way.
like, yeah, like that's not fair to you. That's not fair. So similarly, just because you can't be like, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve to get to play basketball. It just means that in this specific league, it's probably not going to happen. And to a certain degree, I guess you could argue that, like, as terrible as it is, like, to be at the top of any profession, there's probably going to be a hard limit for everybody of different physicality, shape, sizes, whatever the case may be. Like, you can be a 350-pound guy in the NFL, but that's probably not going to go far in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, there's just certain sports require certain things, or certain activities require certain things that certain bodies just aren't going to be able to do. And that's just kind of the nature of games and sports and competition, really. And in the case of hero work, if you don't have a quirk, it's really hard to justify you beating a bunch of people who have quirks, especially. Hell, what is Dobby doing? I mean, what is anybody going to do against Dobby if they don't have a quirk?
They die.
Like, you're going to get burned alive. Like, we could try to find a way to save you. We could try to, like, give you heat proof. But the thing about that is, like, it gets to a point where it's just not realistic. And you need your own air supply, because as with keto, Horikoshi actually factored in, like, the air itself is going to get hot. So if you're breathing in air that's 300 fucking degrees, guess what? If you keep breathing that in, it's going to start cooking you from the inside. It's going to start hurting your lungs. So that at that point, they just need to surround you in fire until you suffocate.
I'm gonna be honest, like, people bringing up how Deku could get like support items to help him compete with like the common pro heroes. But if we look at one of the examples we saw in Sports Festival, Airjet has a quirk that lets him shoot air, but his traversal is through, the backpack that he has, the Airjet. What the fuck is he gonna do with the Airjet? What, shoot bullets? You want to give Deku a gun?
Please, someone in My Hero kill these villains.
And Cameron Bailey, heat resistant suits exist, but you don't deliberately sit in a bunch of fire. Eventually, it will still like, you're not supposed to just sit there and like get cooked, which is what would end up happening.
Okay. Heat
Even if
resistant,
it's heat
not
resistant.
heat proof.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say it may be heat resistant, but like, you think that's gonna stop Dobby from melting you?
Lily endeavors in his heat suit and he's still cooking himself.
Yeah. And he has one of the best resistances to fire in the verse. Yet Dobby is overpowering him with his heat. What's characters
You-
like Deku gonna do if they're quirkless and want to have these suits that could help him against Nami? It won't do much. He'll probably last like 2 seconds.
So generally, a proximity suit and the person inside it cannot survive long periods of direct contact with flames. The user has about 30 seconds of complete engulfing before second-degree burns can occur. For entry into flames, a more suitable suit is required. Let's see if we can find here. Let's see if I can find a fireproof suit. But then remember,
I guess like an example would be Johnny Storm's suit from Marvel. Would be an example of a fire like resistant proof suit. Also, Nathan, you are absolutely right. I would say that is, I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's the closest we'll ever get with Aizawa and Shinzo being the quirkless Deku.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like
Spider.
they functionally fight quirkless, but like they
Yes.
have their quirks
Buffs.
to us. Yeah, yeah,
They keep them on equal level.
yes.
Well, for
The thing
Shinzo, it's
about-
more of an unfair level depending on who he like mind controls, but for Aizawa, it's 100% a fair level. Just comes down to skill.
And
I think-
volume 34 just came out in the US, and I'm reading through it, and on chapter what was it? Chapter 335 is the first instance of All for One sharing Tomura's hatred, and that's been coming up recently, and I completely forgot that happened so far in advance. So it's just, this is why I like rereading the volumes and everything, because you really see how one thing leads to the other.
so I'm looking into this. The highest I can find is like a 1500 degrees Fahrenheit or 816 degrees Celsius. Let's see. 1093 degrees Celsius, while the latter provide with proximity suits, entry suits used for entry into extreme heat and situations requiring protection from total flame engulfment. Most commonly made of ZX or vermiculite and not aluminized. These provide ambient protection up to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit for a short duration. So yeah, basically you can go like 30 seconds to maybe a minute in fire, but if you're completely engulfed, it's probably going to go even. And in addition to that, if you're engulfed in flames, even if you're not on fire, you are definitely still going to feel heat. So
Doesn't it
your
damage
body's
internal
temperature is still
organs?
getting raised. Yes. Once you hit 108 degrees, you're basically guaranteed to die. If you have a fever that goes above 103 degrees, they want you in the hospital because you might start losing brain cells.
I will say, like I Smoked That Fire said Satoru from OPM, which is Movement Rider, would be a great hero in My Hero Academia. I agree 100%, but the difference
He would
between
get
One
his
Punch
ass
Man
beat.
and My Hero is that like Movement Rider would die. Movement Rider would die in My Hero.
He will have died on the first mission. The
Yeah,
first
pretty much.
is Christ.
If
The first
anything,
is Christ.
the
Oh.
one keeps around Movement Rider for both the relationship with Saitama and just for gags.
Guys,
Isn't Saitama's power not even like an actual superpower? It's just he's really
It's
strong
just
from
his
working out.
physical strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all Deku needs to do. He just needs to work it out.
Oh, he needs a workout. That's the cause. Which, by the way,
And-
that annoys the hell out of me because it downplays Deku's mental struggles. Like, of course, the kid who was put down all his life won't train his body. Instead, he's training his mind. And you're putting a lot, because people bring up Asta from Black Clover or Rock Lee, but these are two completely different series with different power systems.
Okay,
Chakra
so
magic
Okay,
versus
okay,
quirks.
do you want to know the thing that really makes that disingenuous?
Shoot.
You don't get your grimoire until 15.
Yes.
You're supposed to get your quirk at 5.
Yep.
So
There's
as
another-
far as
this,
as far as Asta knows, I haven't hit 15 yet. I haven't experienced the grimoire selection ceremony. There's a chance. So I'm gonna bust ass and hope that when the grimoire selection ceremony comes around, I prove everybody wrong.
also like the big difference between Asta and Izuku is that Asta had a support system. Like
Deku only had his mother.
yeah, like like he even like when he never when Asta never showed any magic potential, like knew that Asta's stubborn enough he could find a way to become Wizard King without any magic at all. So he took him seriously. He didn't belittle him. He didn't insult him. He took him seriously as a rival, and that's actually like I really like their relationship. And Asta's relationship as friends, like growing up. Because of that, it's just like they're practically brothers, really, and it's just like
Yeah.
he respected him enough to realize that no. Asta's super stubborn. If he doesn't have any magic at all, he will still find a way to do it. So I need to really step up my game.
Absolutely. That's the whole difference between Asta and Deku. Also, like
It's also
it's
why
possible
I think
for Asta in
Asta,
that world to get up to that level where he is the second physical strongest in the verse.
it's also like why I think instead of Death Battle doing Asta and Deku, I think they should have done Asta and Bakugo, because he would hate Bakugo for how he treated Zuko as a kid.
We also don't talk about that because they completely like made Asta into this aggressive loser.
Oh, did they? I didn't watch because like my main thing with like when you see these like power scale battles on Twitter is like Deku versus pretty much anything. I look at it and like they would be best friends. They would absolutely be best friends.
Oh, for sure.
Like the only person I think that like would come to blows is Deku and Toto from Jujutsu Kaisen, because I do not believe no, I don't believe that I don't believe that Deku would be able to answer what kind of girls you like to Toto's satisfaction.
Oh no, because Toto only appreciates your taste if you choose the exact same thing he does.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
He would completely put you down if you said something else. And he would say, "Oh, you're boring," just like he did to Megami.
Well, Megami was also thinking of his sister, so
Yeah, we don't
Thanks, Gay.
If would have asked me, I would have said, I like little girls. I would have been buff. No, not little girls, but I mean,
Deku
you know
would have
what?
answered, "I like bubbly girls who like crepes and mochi."
Yeah, I would have get him beaten already.
For sure. Sakamoto could be a hero in the My Hero verse with Okura. He could, but like Sakamoto is cracked. Oh yeah, and Deku and Denji would be friends.
By the way, I read also
True
a
Sniper.
new hero manga based on a new heroes manga. I forgot his name is Vibration Man.
Ooh.
Did you anyone read it already?
I haven't, but if you put it into the server, I'll definitely check that out.
It's on.
He's capping. He ain't checking out shit.
I will. No, listen, my semester's done, so I'm free to do like catch up on Undead Unluck, catch up on Sakamoto Days, catch up on everything.
I need to catch up on these stories too, man.
Yeah, you got to catch up on Peak.
I do. I miss Fuko.
Yeah, some Mr. too. She was really great the last time that I was reading it. I need to finish also Vigilantes. I need some chapter to finish. And what I was reading back in the day, even because I was trying to catch up to a lot of stories. I caught up on all my webtoons and manhwas at the moment. Now I just still have to do some mangas. Even One Punch Man, man, it's been I think more than 1 year I didn't read it anymore. I have to catch up to. But there's a lot of stuff that had been happening. No, but yeah, Sakamoto Days, is it better? It became better since the beginning of the story, or
apparently it's really, really good right now. So it's good to catch up on it before
I've seen people say that it's like super good. I've also seen people say it's just peak meathead stuff. And if it's just peak meathead, then I don't want to read it. I want to watch it.
I do think it's like it has the perfect blend from what I've seen so far. It's perfect blend of wholesome energy, meathead action, and
Mm.
humor. Which, if that's your whole thing, that's fine.
For me,
There are a few things in the chat that
the samurai story, like of the person that made uh Kuroko Sensei, the story of Kuroko Sensei, Assassination Classroom. He made like a
I love Assassination Classroom.
Yeah, his last story that or her last story, I'm not sure if it's a woman or a man. They made like the elusive samurai. The elusive samurai. It was really, when I was reading, it was really good. I really loved it.
I heard
The
that.
concept. It's really fun to. This is a fun story to read. So I still need to catch up on this.
Essentially, you can be a pro hero.
Is it almost the end to and then unlock, or there's still a lot of this for the story?
They're in the final arc, aren't they, Aniki? He's not here. But we can answer some stuff in the chat because I see a few discussions. Cameron Bailey, you are absolutely right. Basically quirkless heroes are possible, but they won't last. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, I already said in this current My Hero verse, a quirkless hero would have to be fighting C tier and lower villains. And that's under the assumption they're like extremely skilled, like Aizawa.
Oh, for sure. But look what's happening with Aizawa right now. He has
lost his leg, lost his eye.
His right leg, his eye, like half his quirk is taken away from him. And he's currently in an unknown area.
Chilling with some bum-ass kids.
Yeah, I mean, chilling with his bum friend and, Kurogiri.
The thing
in the corpse of his friend.
Dead friend.
Even this, if you are in My Hero Academia, if you are like quirkless, you should have the technology of I don't know, really a super high technology, like futuristic even for themselves.
Even if you're in America, think about it. You think the average citizen is getting a hold of a laser blaster?
But they're gonna
America,
the blicky on them, so they're good.
No. So here's what's funny is that now people always talk about like the right to bear arms. So here's a fun fact. Legally, I should be able to buy a tank.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you can fire it. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I can fire it, one, but two, it doesn't mean that the cost of a tank isn't so high that the average citizen just isn't going to get it. So the same thing would be the case with the laser blaster. Or like, let's say, Predator drones. Technically, it should be within my rights to buy and own a drone, like a drone striker.
Yeah.
But the average citizen isn't going to get it. So like the laser blaster would be priced so high that only governments could buy them.
I think the closest you could get to a laser blaster that is kind of affordable is if you're like the cider house gang and you're using compressed water, as a laser, which is possible.
Yeah.
But we've seen what happened with that in Japan.
So even in America, like you wouldn't be able to get the laser blaster. Like we might let some stuff go, and like you can own grenades, for example, but you're like basically on a list. So the second you start buying stuff like that, you're basically on a list of the government to keep track of. And
you're a dangerous person.
So that's why people are like, just put some of those same restrictions that we have on grenades, on the stuff that we have, making it harder to buy tanks, etc., on guns that especially have a high chance of offing people or being used in mass shootings. That's why people have the discussion, because we have a lot of regulation on certain stuff already.
I will say, like, the whole like quirkless hero debate, like if a quirkless hero could handle a villain, you'd have to be on like UG levels of like physical strength to like tackle the big bads of the verse. So unless you don't, you are sticking to outside of Japan and in places like Nabu Island.
Which at that point you'd basically have a quirk, just your body, like you would basically be what did they call it? Somebody once called the humans of MHA. He was like, they're no longer Homo sapiens, and I think he just called them like Homo veritas or like Homo veris. But the idea is that at that point, because we see that Aizawa's body is stronger than like a peak Olympic athlete, right? So most of these guys, even the ones who don't have quirks, if they are training a lot, their bodies have just way higher ceilings.
Yes.
So at that point, you would just have the innate body of a person with a quirk. So your quirk would just be enhanced body. So
you're just like a Sugar Boy from Class 4A.
Or like how
the arms.
Shigaraki's physicality was so much higher. And he like his decay has nothing to do with enhancing his physical capabilities. Yet when he was fighting against Redestro was like, damn, he kind of fast with it. What's going on here? Like hell, he basically speed blitzed that mob of people on the wall when he ran through and just decayed the whole crowd. Did
Shigaraki is terrifyingly fast. Even back in like USJ, he was speed blitzing everyone there. Like he ran up on Deku, Froppy, and Mineta like he was the Flash.
Yes, he was really. Just to talk about this, he was also trained by All for One in general to be that fast too. So the ceiling of the body of normal human body in My Hero Academia is not the same as ours. So being quirkless there is a normal human there is stronger than us, even a peak athlete. I would think so in general. But about the durability wise in general. But the thing about it is like when you think about it is that even then a guy that don't has a quirk won't survive out there as a hero. That's how sad the world is there. And she said something that Tanisha, that she had a headcanon in US for MHA. They're on the second constitution because of the advent of the exceptional Thor part of the US so much. They had to do it all over again.
That would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah, like I always had this idea that like you just know that there was a Supreme Court case of whether or not quirk use was covered under the Second Amendment. And I mean, I think they said that like Japan's system is based off of America's. So I mean, it might, again, it might differ from like US state to US state, but I don't think that like quirk use is like a free for all, like it was at the very beginning, like when they first started appearing in the past.
Yeah, it was that's why I would have loved to have seen a story or a spin-off on different places of the world with My Hero Academia, because the potential of how the story can go, where it can go, you know, the way that Horikoshi writes, also the impact of having quirks. When you think about it, when you think about all the stories that have when people have powers, most of the time they don't keep track about how family interactions change, or how the impact it is on the social aspect and political aspect in general. We have that they can be used as an army. The fact that everybody can be and has a loaded weapon around the streets. The speech that Shigaraki gave about it at the shop mall to Deku, that you don't know here, you don't know who you're talking to, you don't know who you're walking to when you're in the Hero Academia world. They might have a quirk that can be stronger than Shigarakis. You don't know about that.
Mhm.
You really don't know about it. And they just need to be unstable mentally or like be angry, and they might be using that on you. It's a scary world over there. It's a scary world. And if you think about it, like will USA think quirks as weapons so that you can use it if somebody, because if I remember the Second Amendment is that everybody has the right to protect themselves if they're in USA. Is it right? About this right they can have happen weapons at their home and stuff, if I'm right. Because I'm not American. Okay, I don't really so I would like to understand it fully.
Mm. Like
So,
I'm on the outside looking into like America and the issues over there because obviously I'm
No
not
one
from
asked
America.
you, Thomas.
Wow, you know what? I
Yeah.
don't want to swear, but fuck you. Nah, so like just imagining like because like Tanisha said it better than I ever could. 9-level events in several states, hell no. Imagine just seeing the average American having a busted quirk. Because let's face it, America has been in shambles compared to Japan for the past 40
Yes.
years until now.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, just look at Star, all right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the other thing that's nuts, right? It's one of those things that I don't think is touched on a lot, but the two most interesting places to go in the My Hero Academia verse,
Oh,
the
Jesus.
US is actually number 3.
What's number 2 and 1?
India and China.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah,
population.
yeah,
Yeah.
overpopulation.
So
that's scary.
with the amount of population, let's just say like if Star's quirk popped up in America and we just carry over the population density, that's 1 in a 300 million chance, right? Of somebody getting a quirk that cracked, which now US population is like 330 million, but whatever, 1 in 300 million. So mathematically speaking, you can justify there being no Star and Strike level people in Japan.
Yes.
Because if we're holding that same population density over, like 80 million, 90 million. China and India both have populations of 1 billion plus.
Mm-hmm.
So we just keep that uniform over. That means you could arguably justify 3 to 4 Star and Strike level quirks in each country.
Oh damn, man. That's like having the nuclear weapons on your side, man.
Now, whether those guys are heroes or villains,
Oh man.
Oh, just
depends on
average
how far
people.
they.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just even awful ones. It's already a kind of Japan has one awful one. One awful one. Imagine what other country might have.
America
And so-
has like 1,000 all for ones in one state.
And that's the other thing, right? Since if we use all for one as the basis, we could argue that there's, because I believe Japan's current population density is about 80 to 90 million. From that perspective, you could argue that Star is an all for one level quirk, new order. I guess that's up for debate, but I especially since all for one, the original quirk, does have limits, and quirks can rebel. So there is a semblance of issue here. So you change the math to there's 2 other people in the US, whether they're children or not, that have quirks on par with New Order. So then you're going 1 per 100 million effectively, 1 per 80 million. But if you go 1 per 80 million, then you could up it to 12 or more all from one level people in China and in India.
Man, that's scary. That's really scary. Just think that, because if they are not, you can imagine they might not be heroes, just normal civilians, but if there are villains of heroes, the impact they can have, like socially and politically, is so enormous.
Imagine you're like walking down your neighborhood, right? You're on your way to the bus to get to high school, and then in the corner of your eyes you see boom, mass explosion. It's just a guy sneezing.
But
Just one sneeze caused like half the block to blow up.
Yes, that's how crazy the quirks are in My Hero Academia, because and the person might be a kid, like they're these 4 years old that just woke up, that just his quirk just awakened. That's
Mhm.
why they even talked about that sometimes when people get when the quirk get activated, it might be tragedy sometimes. That's what happened literally to
To Shigaraki.
Shigaraki.
Yeah.
Or
That was a
Eri.
tragedy. Yeah, yeah, or Eri, yes. The quirks allez, activations might be tragedies. And when you think about it, it's like how powerful a quirk can be. Like we saw the kids in My Hero Academia, like in the chapter with where they can use the weapon. One of these kids had literally his thumb became like a cannon shooter, bro. Can you imagine being the father? Your kid just burp and poof, you get shot in the head.
Like
Yeah,
all the
that's
kids, like, or even babies when they're waking their quirks, could be like Jack from The
yes.
Incredibles.
Yeah, that's the thing. And Jajak, his power was literally, yes, literally, was really variable. And so that kind of, that's the thing. What these kind of tragedies, what does it makes to you to humanity in general?
Mm.
And Horikoshi find, knowing all these tangibles, he went to the easy. He just brought examples to show us and he put it in characters. Like I said, we said Shigaraki, he show what it is quirk tragedies, how people will react to certain type of quirks. With Toga, we get to with people in general that when they have quirks that make them look even that make them look different than what we consider normal humans. With discrimination, racism, discrimination in general. With we get uh, Spinner, and then we get the familial aspect with the Todoroki's, the fact that people start to bring valor, use it as we'll see quirks as a kind of social status stuff with the Himura family. And if I told you because from if for African side we will get stuff like this too, that the kind of trying to give attention to who you will be married, the clan aspect stuff. We still have this some countries in Africa. I'm part of a clan, so even I can tell you sometimes we say you can marry people from these types of from that place in our country because we have history with them. If you mix quirks into that, you can imagine how things can go wrong in some places. So yeah, that's why the world being in My Hero Academia is so intriguing because Horikoshi really worked on that aspect of making like interact with these world and characters. More than see because even we talk about X-Men and stuff. Most of the time, I don't remember about. Most of the time, they try uh, to less the impact of powers in general, but
Yeah.
in the social interaction stuff most of the time because culturally wise, most of the time there are the people that are the minority stuff like this, and it helps construct a easier world to construct. But Horikoshi, what he made, when you think really about this, you try to situate it in different places, man. I understand what he focused on in Japan because this is a thing that he understood and knew, and really started to give his flashes of stuff because that story could have gone anywhere. As a writer myself, I can understand how he can have been distracted by a lot of stuff because there is so much potential in that kind of story, but it's also dangerous because, yeah, you might none of the at the end you might lose all the identity. So having it focused like a shonen story and giving flashes of it is really great. Uh, the story is not perfect, but he really did a great job at it. A really great job.
Also,
Yeah.
because I want to center besides the whole Hamura clan incest, which that's just classic royal shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that they even answered that Hamura clan, addressed that the Hamura clan has been around pre the quirk, evolution, revolution, whatever you want to call it. The advent of
Yes.
exceptional. But first off, this is usually how like a lot of dynasties fell, is years and years of interbreeding leading to their kings straight up being like less than competent. Less than competent, we'll say.
Yeah.
And developing lots of health issues. So like that there's a bit of a realism here, but also that the Hamura clan, because it always felt scummy that they were like, Endeavor, the number 2 hero. Oh boy. Like, first off, like obviously through our lens, arranged marriage can be seen as like this inherently bad thing. I do know at least one person who ended up getting into an arranged marriage, seems to be happy, having a happy life. So I'm not going to say all arranged marriage is inherently scummy. Like, let's make that clear. Not all arranged marriage, like some cultures it works. Some people genuinely can find happiness in those arranged marriages. So I'm not going to speak on everybody's existence and assume that every arranged marriage is bad. But specifically the context of this arranged marriage is my clan, my glory. I want to feel good about what we got going on. So I'm basically going to sell you off. Yeah, that's bad. I think we can all agree that arranged marriage in that sense, pretty terrible. So
Not very pog. That's all
Yeah.
we'll say.
And so the Hamura clan just being kind of a line of snakes, that's kind of what we expected, I think. I don't think anybody here was like, no, but the Hamura clan was going to be noble. Nah. You guys were scum from the beginning, so it kind of makes sense that it would lead to the current conflicts in them. And so to a certain degree, while it's easy to look at the Todoroki family or like Enji Todoroki as the crux of the issue, there's always been like that build up to this family kind of imploding. And I don't think it's a coincidence that an entire clan of people being crushed by expectations birth children that in the modern era, after their downfall, just ended up more violent, more lashing out, more capable of conflict. I'll be right back.
Take your time.
Yeah. The thing about it, when you think, literally the fact that even Todoroki, Shoto we saw multiple times insulting the dog inspector. Like, what do you want to say, Mutt? That's what he said last when the inspector came to visit them at the hospital. Am I right? Hello? Yeah. So I want to, because I remember, like, because we just had the Aniki said that they were like that the Himura family was seen as kind of discriminators against people of heteromorph. And most of the time when we saw also Shoto insulting the dog officer after what was the arc again?
That was the stain. That was after stain.
This is after the stain arc. Yes, he insulted them. So it is in the family. You know what I mean? Being like that, the kind of interaction that they have with heteromorphs in general. And did that be talk at least one? But did that be talked like this to Spinner once? I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, Dobby
did call him a lizard.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it is in their family. Maybe they heard their mother talk like this once, or because the person that was taking care of them was that also was she part of the Himura family, or was she?
No. So I guess the question here is, do you guys think that Ray had heteromorphicist tendencies? Do you believe she
Yes.
might have passed on
Wait,
some
wait,
of
wait,
the-
wait. I just read back. What? What are we? What
Do
you
you
mean?
think Ray was racist? Do you think the Ray is short for
You
racist?
think Shoto got those tendencies from her? Like it's hereditary?
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe she said some shit that was a little slick.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, children are sponges. They pick up what their parents say. So maybe.
Yeah, I believe so because when you see Endeavor, he works with you. I think he works with people that are in the that are heteromorph.
So
In
now
my
we got to go look at all of his sidekicks and see if we find any
yes,
heteromorphs.
I was
You know
thinking
what?
hype.
Well, he has
I'm gonna
over
do it right
100,
now.
so
I'm gonna do it right now.
Because
The ones we know of.
Now the other thing is that because Toya, if you remember, he was like, I heard from I know that like grandpa had to basically sell you because the family was poor, blah blah blah. So the question that we gotta kind of ask ourselves is one, did they see the Hamura side of their family? And then two, is that part of why they talk the way they talk? Three,
Yeah.
does that make Natsuo lashing out like Natsuo dating a heteromorph even more of like a lash out? Because people used to joke that it was like Endeavor that did that, but now that we have this establishing factor that
Yes.
that tendency towards hatred or that like frigid bigotry is partially like built into the Hamura clan, like it also it makes it make a little more sense why it's like, Ray, this is your fault too, right? Because like that tendency and that willingness to be like spiteful extended, so like you kind of like if she opened the door to some of that heteromorphic discrimination, then she did kind of inherently like give her children access to being a bit more hateful. So I don't know if Endeavor has time to be discriminating when he's just out here trying to whoop ass.
I believe so.
Princess Fussy, but
I really believe so. I really believe so. No, that's the thing because LA, we're just talking about this, but doing Horikoshi, he will do something like this. Something about
Wait,
it. He will
wait.
do
So
something.
like just to clarify, right? Not because I heard you say not so with his girlfriend. Are you saying it's the spite Endeavor and his mom, or just Endeavor?
See, it might be like him rebelling against his family entirely.
Yes.
Like he could actually love her, but him being
Yeah.
like into heteromorphs could be a byproduct of his family's discrimination. Like him being,
Yes.
because it's like that girl who has racist parents but dates black dudes.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I see that,
I can
and
see
I
that.
see that a lot. I see that a lot. Even one of my one of my sister's friends, she's like the parents of her boyfriend were racist toward black people in general. That friend of hers, she's like I think she's like mixed, and
Mhm.
the relationship with my sister in general. My sister told me about the relationship. So, sometimes people go against their family stuff, and they also become attracted by the hate, like, but there's something the family hates in general, because yeah, they can't like, maybe it comes because they don't understand some stuff in general, but I don't know how their minds work in their mind works, but yeah, can see that happening for, because Harikoshi, he's a writer that lays some little stuff on side of pages, sometimes in some words, in some phrasing, you will say some stuff. And you keep seeing the link in the next few 50 chapters. You can see the link with what was said before was put in the image in one of the panels. So yeah. Well, you have Penzu. Literally, I can tell you something. No, a family. I know people in general, and even female family, because I am from a mixed family. I can tell you that if I more and more I think about the choice that my uncles, my mothers, that my uncles, aunts makes, or because they have sometimes some hate, some prejudice. We say like the way that sometimes they talk about people, they choose the partners in that type of way. I can tell you that. I can tell you that because when you being part of a mixed family, I see some stuff happening, and see some people the choice that they can make partnering for their partners. It's quite sad. More and more I think about it. So yeah, people will sometimes try to rebel to choosing their partners, or yeah, humans are fascinating.
Ain't that right,
So
Princess Fussy Butt?
Mhm.
so
They're very
Endeavor, an
interesting.
abuser, and an unwilling racist, match made in heaven. Alves, you're killing me. But yeah.
Alves is great. Also, Alves made me realize that we haven't done anime lately in forever.
Yeah.
We haven't done what?
I used to do anime lately a lot, but it just
Oh
been too
yeah,
busy.
I've been missing you on that.
I don't know if they've done anything in a while either. I went to check, and I don't think I had seen something in a couple months.
They probably took a
Uh,
hiatus.
Yeah, because I know that Bash was doing some work, and I knew that Ray was busy and Sam was doing a lot. So I know you have to reach out to those guys, even if we don't do a show, just check in on them.
Mhm. Yeah, 7 months ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so heteromorphic discrimination aside,
Mhm.
I can excuse racism. I just draw the line at quirk supremacy. I'm kidding. If you know, you know.
Fucking wild.
Uh,
I love that.
but and we talked about like compressed, maybe like the OG Harima stuff coming into play, because I do wonder if he's really stuck on this machine, if there's anything he can do to contribute to the story outside of this prison, right?
You know, one
He may just be stuck in exposition land, which I guess I wouldn't be mad at necessarily because his wounds were pretty egregious, but was hoping for a bit more compressed in the story, something a
Yeah.
bit more.
one theory that I saw in like the long gap between the leaks coming out and this coming out today is that he's trying to like negotiate like a almost like a plea bargain for
Yeah.
Spinner and Toga, who are by far the
Or
most
Toga,
I mean
Oh no. Tony.
that bum
I just
Toga,
forgot.
she deserves death.
Like this.
I do agree, Joseph. That is possible.
yeah.
Um,
And just like one thing on the last page of the chapter, like Ray's eyes are like steaming, and that can't be a good sign.
yeah, she
so-
burned.
She gonna die. She gonna die.
Mhm.
She's gonna die. Literally, her body's not made to support that kind of temperature.
Not gonna
Yeah.
die.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know.
I think
It does look like her skin is already like burning off.
yeah.
But whether or not she like, the thing about this is that if for even a moment she can get Dobby's head cool enough to get him to look at her and for him to like kind of come back to his senses, I would love to see the result, because if you remember, when he was laying there lamenting, he was kind of like Endeavor, Natsuo, Shoto, like he calls Enji Endeavor usually,
Mhm.
which he's reverting back to the mind of a child here. But now we see he still, as an adult, referred to Rei as mom. So even though he lashed out at her and partially held her responsible, there's that small beacon of effect, like bead of affection that maybe we can see manifest. And as she's trying to get things to cool down and hopefully line up with the ice that he's forming, if Shoto gets there in time, we've seen what phosphor can do.
Mhm.
That blast is potent. Like that one flash fire fist that he did had ice reaching out to around the city, cooled down the sidewalks that had begun melting. The whole buildings were just covered in ice. So if we can get him here for one last big shot of phosphor cold flame, we could stall out whether or not people would actually be able to live through that attack, and whether or not, because what I also like about this is if you notice, Ray's left side is burned more than her right, and it looks like the same might be happening for Endeavor too, where we might just get a family of left burned people. But the hope, I think for all of us here is Shoto can get there in time and we can at least make it so that they don't completely get, destroyed as a family. Because with what we know about Uyumi and what we can gather about Natsuo, they are both also supposed to be Frost users. So at the very least, I could see them coming in to try to save Rei. Whether or not Enji and Toya make it is a whole other story, but the dream is that his entire family is there and he is not. And I think at some point we have to pay that off, whether it's through Endeavor dying via a combination of the burns and wounds he suffered here and suffered fighting All for One, or something else, that remains to be seen. Whether it's just him like being like, all right, you guys are united, going in the retirement home. We'll see. But we know that he's wealthy. We know that they've got the money, even with them not getting paid for the last month. I don't see Endeavor being a hero after today, regardless.
Yeah.
Just like Ox isn't going to be a pro hero after today for obvious reasons. So
Endeavor is dying here, whether it's physically or
Yeah.
like even if
symbolically.
Angie lives, Endeavor is dead.
absolutely.
It's the last day of Endeavor.
Yeah,
Hey,
with
Princess Fussy Butt, you waking up?
Yeah,
It's
with-
going.
with the way Toya is like mentally regressing, when he woke up after Sokoto Peak, he wanted to apologize to Rei. So I wonder if this will be his chance to do that, if he would remember that he wanted to do that and try to make the attempt.
Yeah, because like you said on chapter 350, I have it here actually. I opened it up while you guys were discussing. He said, I gotta go home. I bet dad was just too busy with work to come see me, right? Yeah, he must be really worried. There were awful things I said. I did it and I said I should apologize to mom and everyone. And dad still needs to see what I can do. And he is fulfilling that right now through his words. Like, look at me then. Watch me. It is interesting. Maybe will he keep regressing, or because of the cold from Rei, like he'll go back to
Well,
You
I think his brain is boiling no matter what.
I think also his brain is melting too, because literally, look at his eyes, his face. That man has no eyes anymore.
No, he's a skeleton on fire.
Yes,
So-
well, yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
So I think he's definitely caused some brain damage, but
Yeah.
I think there's a reason we can see that he still has hair. And just like the ice is right over his heart and helping him stay alive through that, the ice is probably also protecting his head, because you can see that doesn't necessarily look like fire coming off the top of his dome on the last page, but rather like steam, as if his body is constantly trying to generate ice over his brain to protect him, and it's just evaporating off too quick. Oh, Princess Fleshy Butt, look at you being a sleepy baby. You're so cute.
Yeah.
I do want to
The-
ask you guys and the chat themselves. Sorry, Impanzi, I just asked this. Now that we know that Rei is here, and obviously Natsuo and Fumi are probably on their way, how do you see next chapter, or at least like if you can just imagine it, how do you see next chapter going?
He will change of scene.
Nah.
Nah, I think we're gonna be here. I don't think
Hey.
Horikoshi is going to like do what he did with All Might versus All for One
You
and like
never
swap
know.
away, you know?
You never know. You never know, man.
I mean, you're
He
right.
like
You,
to do
you never
that.
know. But
He's one of his favorite mangaka does this a lot. Oda is a pro to do that. He's gonna tell you 3-4 different stories by chapter. You were waiting for the other story, and then puff, you get this. You're looking to yourself like, damn, man, really?
I
Really?
think we get one moment of the Todoroki family being united. So I think we
Really?
get maybe Natsuo Fuyumi trying to help calm them down, slow down the conversation, and I think we get Shoto arriving at the end, and the family being together, united, everybody actually given that moment to give Toya some acknowledgement, letting him know that he kind of surpassed his dad and he surpassed Shoto. But I feel like with the way this attack and explosion was built up, I don't think there's a way for, like, there's a chance Toya blows up anyway, right? Like we
Yeah.
were told that the thing that was keeping him alive was his hatred. So I think if he
Yeah.
gets a moment where he's actually loved and his family is trying to save his life, it ironically will also be the reason he dies. He no longer has a reason to live. He got the attention from his father, his mother like put him first, then his whole family in that moment celebrated him and like tried to help him out and acknowledge the growth and the process that he has achieved. And ultimately, though, he was also building up that explosion. So I can see it turning into, well, unfortunately, you still had that pent up energy, and now it's starting to release. And maybe we still end up with Endeavor and Toya going up into the sky, having their final dance together. And maybe Shoto using the phosphor move or something like that to help reduce the amount of like impact on the ground. Just so that there's like a cool air blanket causing it like the explosion to go upward, keeping it from destroying the, you know, ground level and stuff.
Because that's why I was going to question. It's like if Toya does explode, we have not only Ray there, but we have Fumi and Natsuo. And unless they have a way to get out there, like Ida, they're caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
They have a chance to die right now. So Ida needs to, you know, be the horse.
Which while
this
they're
situation.
talking to him, Ida might just like hop people away and get them out of the area, covering, you know, currently he's covering like, you know, 30 kilometers, something like that, something pretty far, but they're 800 meters away. Here, he might be able to, I'm trying to remember what did they say the yield was going to be, like 5K?
Wait, what you say?
You guys remember what they said the blast radius was going to be?
Let me
Yeah,
see.
yeah, it was 5 kilometers.
So
Yeah, around that.
So if he can get them out of there, plus, you know, they'll have cooled them off, the explosion will probably be somewhat reduced. But ultimately, maybe we're just going to have something to encase them in ice, and then maybe like an opening, like an exit valve towards the top, and something to so that there's a little less destruction, but in exchange, you know, we still lose Endeavor, Toya. And so the family is whole for one moment, but ultimately those two were lost because I don't see a way for, you know, Toya to come back physically.
Wait, so like that 5K of, you know, explosion, does that reach Uraraka and Toga?
Currently, yes.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
they need to. Oh my God,
That's why they
your
can't
hate for
have,
her is insane.
they can't have the full power explosion go off
Yeah.
currently. Which with Ray here, with the ability to have some of that ice applied, we have a reason to stop it from being at max damage potential. Or at the very least, a lot of the heroes can start fleeing and hopefully not be killed in the explosion. And right, Princess Classy Quiet. Yeah, we want the heroes to live. At least the ones who had nothing to do with this. It's not personal for them. Yeah.
Stanley Thomas, hindsight 2020. If they had accepted his quirk doomsday theory, advances in quirk science would have never happened or never needed to resort to Nomu, and people like Dabi would have had a way better understanding of their quirk. In an alternate universe, that would have happened, but not here.
Yeah.
I love the
Yes.
matching with Endeavor and Davi.
Like the hug panel.
That and like just them matching, you know, zero arms on the
yeah.
right side.
I mean, it's
Yo, I was talking the whole time. Then I was
Oh, you
muted.
muted? Oh no.
Oh no, that's funny. The thing about this, like, to answer the question about if the doom theory was accepted, with like I said, with ifs we can save the world, we can even destroy it. So yeah, for me, Garaki was, even if he was accepted, All for One would have talked to him, and he would have seen All for One as a god, because All for One's quirk was the kind of quirk in that time that was really the most dangerous one. It was godlike. The fact that you can take people's powers, because back in the day they were seen as powers, not really identity. They really were not like, back in the day. It was the first coming of the story. You know what I mean? So he was seen as a kind of a messiah. That man came, the man came in a time, brought order in a time of chaos. You know what I mean? So yeah, uh, he was seen as a kind of a god. So he would have seen him, and even the fact that he was smiling, he referred to him as Buddha, bro. So yeah, which chapter was it that the reporter went off script and said the word should defy All for One? I forgot the chapter. It was if I remember, that was the woman talking on TV. If am I right, boys?
I think
Yep.
it was 374, which is the butterfly effect chapter.
Mhm.
Butterfly effect is what the chapter is called.
Mm.
Uh like the art in this chapter is just like,
Yeah, the thing, mm, the thing with court, you have to understand humanity. When you're scared of something, you don't want to mess with that, or you want to control that, or you don't want to mess, or you go away from that. It's not really in between. Most of you want also to surpass it, so be it when you fear about that. But most of the time, you want to control what you fear. You still fear it, but you want to control about that. What's good, bumps? Nafisa, hello. The thing about it is like, when you see the quirks, the first quirk that they saw in China was a kid that was shiny. That was a shiny kid, literally a shining kid. We don't know what happened to that kid. We have the movie who showed him as a kind of religious figure. We get the religious figure, and even we get also the thing about the Metal Liberation Army. Or also they have also the story with the mother who tried to protect her kid and everything. But the thing about quirks in LA, the thing about quirks, trying to, you would have people who would have tested and they would have gone the wrong way. Like I think it is Tanisha who talked about this. The CIA with quirks. That's what was happening. You know what I mean? That's what we see also in movies when you see the X-Men and stuff. People start to misuse this kind of stuff and start to treat people badly. So yeah, I can understand. I understand why in Japan it was seen as quirks. We don't touch up. We don't touch that. People should not use these quirks, and I think Europe, they would have used the same thing. And in most of where people have accepted that we don't use weapons, we don't use quirks as that you shouldn't use your quirk in a public. What do you think about that, boys? Mm-hmm.
yeah, hold on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're still alive. How could you take him back? So let's read the answer. Really, I'm sorry. How you did react to Debbie's ice quirk? It was supposed to happen. The fact that his body was a body that was supposed to resist ice, low temperatures. That's why the fact that his quirk, the way that his quirk was burning his body was uh was showing that he should have that he still had like ice ice ability genes in his quirk in his body, in his quirk. So it is really quite it is well set in the story, I would say. Okay. Thank you. I'm still trying to find the chapter where the US president was contemplating giving into FAO. That wasn't the chapter, and I thought it was. Okay. I don't remember.
Tanisha, I think it was a few chapters after that, maybe like 2 or 3 further. And you know, the thing about Dobby having the eye, like he said before that Endeavor only taught him how to turn up the heat. So if he maybe tried to go in reverse, he would have discovered it a lot sooner, which is like also like one of the reasons like this story is just like so like tragic. It's just like Endeavor really did everything wrong.
Yeah, it's a tale of missed opportunities more than anything else. It's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity, where the constantly making the wrong choices has just led to people, like has led to everything that's happening here. Like when you look at you know, every single person who walked past Shigaraki is a missed opportunity where it might not have gone the way that it's going now. Like every single one of them, they had that shot to make sure this doesn't happen. And that's part of the reason why, to a certain degree, it is a reflection of society. And like, no matter, like even with whatever happened with Shigaraki, and despite, you know, the personal conflicts or whatever, and the way that his quirk was manifested, etc., any person, Shigaraki was on the street for days. Any person could have found him. There were people who looked at him and just kind of went, yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
Or like what that lady said, I'm sure the police are here will be by soon, and then just left him.
So chance after chance, people were given, and chance after chance, they just didn't take it.
Yeah, and it's Shigaraki, I think it was during MVA, he even said like if even one person had reached out to him, like this whole thing could have just never even happened.
Like to a certain degree, between the phrase all it takes is one bad day, like MHA is kind of a story that at its core is like you should always be extending kindness to people, because anybody can be one step away and you could be the deciding factor in whether or not people's, you know, mentality completely snaps.
We have all walked past a Shigaraki or a Twice. Like look at the homeless crisis. Like so much could be helped by just lending out a hand. And I think like Horikoshi handles that like idea perfectly.
You know, and, like this was also seen with Shoto in the sports festival. Like Deku reached out to him.
Yep.
And that had
with Gentle too.
Yeah, it had
Eri and Kota and all these people.
Yeah, just it had major impact on all of them.
So 374 is the chapter where the newscaster talks about the US trying to bow to AFO. So I wouldn't pull that one up. I gotta find
also I have a question for people here, because I've seen this be brought up a lot in the community and in the server itself during the leak. During leaks, Dobby's ice quirk and how people are perceiving it are like, I've seen people say, oh, it's the ice that has been keeping him alive for a while, or you have the people in the camp who is like, it's his hatred, like his burning hatred to make Endeavor suffer,
I think it's
Shoto
both.
suffer. Yeah, I think it's both, but it's
Yes.
just the fact people are so like hard-headed about it, like they are stubborn and they don't believe that, hey, the hatred that Dobby had was the reason. It's always one way or the other
Mm,
for them. So I
I
just
think
wanted to
it's
get
people
people's
trying to
opinions.
apply too much logic into it.
mhm.
When in this series itself, we already know people can just survive based off hatred via
Mhm.
Shigaraki and the PLF. So it's
Mhm.
like people try to apply too much logic when you can just use anime logic for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing about like we talk about a story that tried to use a certain human's aspect to give him more exaggeration, you know, the fact that the only way that that he's surviving is because of his hate. But you can see what the other one doesn't negate the other, and having that ice around his hurt helps to fuel cold blood to his head also. So there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff. Like for me, it doesn't negate. It is really both of them, because the only thing that you can say also is the fact that you always wanted his father approval. That's why you say, "Watch me, daddy, dad, watch me, watch me, watch me." Always wanted his dad approval. So yeah, uh, like, that story for me. I don't know for you guys, but yeah, more and more I think about it, more I'm touched by that kind of by the Todoroki family story. It's a a really sad story. Really too sad.
Mm.
Right.
All right. Looks like we're winding down based on the discourse, and Princess Fussy Butt is a little more active. Okay. I will address the cyber anime glitches comment real quick. People think MHA is realistic because MHA is closer to scientific realism than most series actually are. Like,
Yeah.
so in comparison to most shonen, MHA is pretty fucking realistic. And the way people's reactions are written, pretty realistic actually. Like people don't, what ends up happening though is that if people don't relate to something, they tend to get more confused by it. Like the kids leaning harder into working as a response to what happened in the war led people to think that they felt nothing about the war, but in reality, it's like they took it as a personal failure and they needed to do something about it. So they weren't going to just sit around and mope. They were going to actively try to fix the issue that they felt partially responsible for creating, which Mineta himself says as Machia gets past them during the war. Is this partially on our shoulders? So if you feel guilt and like you made a mistake, then the correct move is to try to atone for that mistake. It doesn't matter if it's not really their fault that all the stuff that happened with Machia happened. What matters is that they feel personal responsibility and are therefore going to take personal responsibility to deal with the outcome. But it's easier to just kind of be like, man. So it's one of those situations, but don't want to dwell too much on that because like we talked about earlier, MHA is one of the few series that actually holds to the equal force requires equal and opposite reaction. So in cases like Bakugo, where we see that 5% full Howling Deku couldn't fire off the gauntlet without almost dislocating his shoulder, which means Bakugo's shoulders have to be able to withstand the force of his explosions. And Horikoshi made it a point to, like honor that, which is part of why some of the hits that Bakugo takes while being of a way higher scale and way too much for a regular human body, it firmly establishes he is not just a regular human body. And that's why I like what the comment I got over a year ago said about like them being a step further in the Homo sapien chain, where they're just straight up a more advanced version of our species at this point. And even Deku being born quirkless, being born to parents who had quirks, he's of that species just without the trait that generates a unique quirk. So it kind of is what it is in that department.
We must not forget that he's descendant of a person that has a body that can control flames and one that can move stuff.
Yeah. Which also a horrible quirk combo to try to they clearly married for love and not because they thought their quirks were going to make a super baby. I'll say that.
Hey man, that could have been a cool quirk if that quirk would have happened.
It just would have been
Wait, who we talking about?
Deku's parents.
Oh, for sure.
But I am going to start to go around the horn because I think East just sent me a message saying that he's not going to come through today.
Yeah, he sent me the same thing.
So with that being said, we'll take it from the top. Let's go with Bonzu. Let's get some of your final thoughts.
Great chapter. It was good to be there on the street talking with you guys. Thank you. And yeah, I hope that next chapter will be better. I hope that the storyline, that we will continue the storyline with history change again. I hope that we see Deku fighting Shigaraki. That would be good to see how things happening on that side. So thank you and bye.
All right, let's go with Joseph Shola.
All right. This was an amazing chapter. The art alone was top tier, and it's just like hitting the right emotional beats. Like I just know, like, if Toya does explode and he like tells Ray that he loves her and that he's sorry, it's going to wreck me emotionally.
All right, let's go with Coyote.
Pretty solid chapter. Overall, there's nothing to really be mad at in this chapter. And if you are really mad by this chapter, I really want to know what you were looking for in a series. Because this chapter does nothing wrong in the sense that it just adds more to the story with adding more to the Himura like plot line. We learn more about Dabi and the ice thing, and people might say that's not set up. Well, we do see earlier in the war that this was shown to us, so it's not exactly out of nowhere. And as well as like Endeavor and Ray, I kind of always thought that Ray was gonna be there because Shoto had to get there. So to say like she coming out of nowhere, like I saw earlier, is an ass pull is really not a wild thing to say. I always thought she was going to be there, so with Natsu and Fuyumi. So overall, this does a lot of great setup for the future.
All right, and then Thomas.
Like I already said, and Joseph, very good chapter. There's not much to complain. It's very, very solid. Like, people were complaining that Ray was there, but if you look back at the hospital talk and who Ray is as a person, it's great that she's here, because why wouldn't she? She's a mother. This is her son. Like, what? Are you kidding me? But yeah, I really like the chapter. I like getting more from Endeavor, because so far he's a great character. I can't wait for next chapter. If we are on a break, no clue. Depends on Horikoshi's health. I am excited to see more from All Might. I was kind of disappointed we didn't continue from there, but it's neither here or there. So yeah, great chapter. Make sure to like the stream, everyone, and stay safe.
There's no scheduled break next week. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no scheduled break next week. Glad you guys were here. With being a new dad and all. We'll see if I ever have time to give you guys more content, but I do want to. I genuinely want to there's some stuff that I genuinely want to get out there. So let's see if work can slow down, and maybe I can do some writing and outlining for that, because I do want to try to transition to a more scripted format for some of my longer videos and ideas, just to make sure I don't accidentally start an idea and then switch halfway through a sentence because something else pops into my head. I think you guys deserve the highest quality I can give you, so I want to try to make that happen.
I'm willing to edit for you if you want.
Well,
Yeah, same here.
part of me likes editing a lot,
Mhm.
just because he lets me interject random things. I know
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
And I don't know if sometimes you guys are like watching the screen, but say every now and then, like I have little random Anakiisms that just get thrown in there. But if it comes down to it,
I like the Infinity War Photoshop from that last one. you did.
That's an old Photoshop that somebody did of me back in like 2018 when I was in Discord debates all the time, and I was just kind of crushing it about manga and stuff. Go figure. I was using MHA to just like whoop people's asses for a bit there, but all the same. Which actually, nope, it doesn't exist anymore. But one of the oldest videos on YouTube that had me in it was on Dustin's channel, where somebody challenged me to a debate, and we were arguing Bakugo versus Yusuke as which one was the better character.
Oh, better character. I was going to say strength. Why?
Wait, that
and
Yusuke Yu
Urameshi.
Hakusho?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure.
and
Not the Persona one.
yeah, no, and basically it was like, that's not how you argue. You're wrong, and you're trying to argue a point instead of making a point for your argument at any point. And so it was basically me trying to like instruct this person on how to debate while also them trying to argue with me. It was a weird time. But and yeah, there's also the old Silvers streams where when I used to do One Piece content every week when they were popping off. But yeah, it's been a journey. Been about 4 years on YouTube now, a little over that. And I'm just glad that we're at this juncture now, and I got you guys and we got the Discord. And it's kind of nice to have our pocket of the community that's doing what we do. So
Exactly.
nice to have time to do something that I really love and enjoy. And I'm glad to be working with you guys. It's a real honor. That's all I'm going to say for now, because we've gotten off top of the topic of the chapter. But in general, I think that we all should kind of have seen something similar to this coming. I think the Todoroki family plot line will begin its wrap up officially over the course of the next couple chapters. What I'm looking forward to is the inevitable volume cover with little Toya and maybe like young Enji or something like that. Just a real Todoroki family cover, one with all the family members on it. Hopefully.
Like a family portrait.
Yeah, some kind of twisted family portrait for that final volume cover. Because we've seen Endeavor on them. We've seen Shoto on his own cover. Dabi has gotten his own cover. So it'll be kind of nice to see just a total fam portrait for one of their final volumes centered on their art.
Just
To be honest, I had
what
something
it could
similar
have
with
been.
the One for All users, like all of them, because it is
Yep.
its own family. So that I had something similar to that, but that's a good idea. Have them
So,
all
yeah.
like one last hurrah to them.
So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you are somebody who's watching this VOD and make it all the way here, I'm going to hang out with Princess Stinky Butt and my wife. You guys have a great day.